We have reached the end of the line. We started at 0 all the way through number 99, and we are ending with a good one today as we wrap up our summer-long series going through every single jersey number in St. Louis sports history and picking out who the best one was to wear it. All the way back at 0 with Mason Wynn, we have worked our way through every single number. And guys, this is kind of this is really the core of the debate that we kind of started here. And when people have asked, well, what's the criteria? What are you judging by? I feel like number 99, guys, is kind of the one that might blow it all up. And I'm glad that it's at the very end. Joined by Randy Karraker and Bernie Miklasz, I'm Joe Roderick here on STL Sports Central. All content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. So, guys, when we started this, it is the best athlete to wear the number in St. Louis sports history. Now, we have done many debates. And we have looked at what they have contributed to the city of St. Louis and St. Louis sports. So the three individuals that I'm giving you for number 99, you have Cardinal So Taguchi, who I believe has at least one bobblehead somewhere on our shelf over here. Good. You have Aaron Donald, one of the most disruptive, one of the most powerful, one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time, especially here in recent history in the NFL. And then you have the great one, Wayne Gretzky, who was only here for a cup of coffee, but still was a St. Louis Blue. So as we have gone through 99 other numbers so far to get to this, how do you guys kind of sort out who the best 99 is in St. Louis sports history?
Randy, before we get into particulars, when I saw this, I thought these guys are all unique in a way because I can only speak for myself, but I'm sure I'm speaking for many, many others. When the Blues acquired Wayne Gretzky and that came out and it was announced, that was about as thrilling a moment that I ever had in my time covering St. Louis sports. And you go back further than I do, so I defer to you on that. But that was just an incredible thrill. It was almost unbelievable to even contemplate. The second guy, Aaron Donald, and I don't mean to sound like a jerk, a pompous jerk or anything. Well, I am, so whatever. When after his rookie season, and I've been, I was a member of that Pro Football Hall of Fame selection committee for a long time, studied hundreds and hundreds of players. And I said on our radio station, I said, listen, I know this sounds crazy and it's certainly premature, but I've never seen an inside player as fast and quick and as unblockable as this guy. And if he stays healthy, he'll be a Hall of Famer. And that's after his first season. And, his 2 years in St. Louis, I mean, he was a Pro Bowler and he was all pro both times. And the other thing,
Bernie, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff Fisher wouldn't start him for his first 5 games. He wanted to start Kendall Langford. Remember?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for the laugh. So Donald is unique because he got here at a time when, the die was cast and the Rams were moving. But as far as like a great player, even in those 2 years in St. Louis, you just knew this is a great football player. And I'll also always appreciate him very much, Aaron Donald, because when the Rams were taken from St. Louis in a typical but especially despicable, act of corruption by the NFL, Aaron Donald took the time to take out an ad and even in interviews thank the football fans of St. Louis. I mean, he remained loyal to Rams fans for the longest time. The third guy, So Taguchi, on this list, all due respect to the great man, the great one, sorry. He was a great man. Wayne Gretzky still is. Wayne Gretzky and Aaron Donald. How many Cardinals players, Randy, have been more lovable than So Taguchi? It doesn't even have to do with stats as much. Everybody loves So Taguchi, right? Mm-hmm. So that made him unique as well. But there's also there's also a reason in terms of performance where, you can make a case for him, but I've done enough talking. I kind of wanted to do the overview thing on this. You take it from here, my friend.
Yeah, well, I think number one, So Taguchi is lovable, no doubt about it. And had a big playoff home run. But I don't think anybody will ever confuse him with the best ever to play the sport. And I think, like you said, these are different circumstances because you have arguably the best ever to play at his position in football as one of them, and then inarguably the best ever to play the sport in hockey. And if you go around to smart sports fans around the country and you say, who's the best team sport athlete to ever play in St. Louis? With all due respect to Albert and Stan and Aaron Donald and Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk, I think most people, if you give them the list, they say, well, Gretzky. Gretzky's the best team sport player ever. And yes, he was only here for 18 regular season games and the playoff run, but still he was phenomenal. What we saw was in the 18 regular season games and the playoff games he played, he was still the best hockey player we ever saw in St. Louis. So right. I've got to go with Gretzky. I can't turn away. We talked about 91 in our last video, Bernie, and there was nothing more spectacular. As great as Tarasenko was, and as great as some other Blues players were over the years, there was nothing more spectacular than watching Wayne. And this includes Brett Hull, by the way, in the 91 goal or the 91 season where he scored 86 goals. That stretch of hockey that Wayne Gretzky played in St. Louis, he was at the top of his game. He was awesome. And so I got to go with 99.
It was a brief and shining time. Brief and shining time. Incredible. Yeah.
Let me just throw out hypotheticals with this. And I know, that's not what this is, but just to have a little fun with it, because, you guys both talked about the dominance of Aaron Donald. And when you look at the numbers for that, is there a set amount of years? Because he only played here 2 years, 20 sacks in 2 years with the St. Louis Rams before going out to LA. If he played his entire career in St. Louis and put up the same numbers that he did in St. Louis, would that have been enough for him to take over the 31 games of Wayne Gretzky's St. Louis tenure?
I think that's a good question. I think he would be revered here, and especially because, as Bernie said, he loved St. Louis. I think that would be a part of the equation too. Yeah, I think that would probably change things if he would have had his entire career here rather than part of it here and part of it in LA.
I totally agree, because the magnitude of his career, it's not the magnitude of Wayne Gretzky's entire career, but most of Wayne Gretzky's career was spent outside of St. Louis. And although, again, that does not take anything away from his time here, it was a thrilling thing. But Aaron Donald, his style of defensive tackle, I mean, if I were to go into that room, Hall of Fame room again, I mean, I think I would hear many people in the room say, this is the greatest inside defensive lineman in the history of the league. You just couldn't block him. And I think that would carry a lot of weight in terms of this balloting if he had played his whole season, whole career in St. Louis. And the only thing I'll say about he was lovable, but I say this out of respect. I mean, I wouldn't vote for him, but I do want to show him respect. He was 6 seasons as a Cardinal and really good Cardinals teams. And he had a role, and his teammates loved him. La Russa loved him. Everybody loved him. But, that 2006 postseason, and, they hadn't won a World Series since 1982. He hit 400, and he had 2 homers, and he had an 867 slugging percentage. He came up really, really, really big at a time where the Cardinals had a chance to end a very long stretch of no World Series titles. And I'll never forget sitting at Shea Stadium and that home run he hit off Billy Wagner in Game 2. If he doesn't hit, and that thing was majestic. I was just looking at it and I was laughing. Oh my goodness. That thing was like one of those jets that would circle Shea Field during the Shea Stadium during the time. But I just wanted to point that out because he's got kind of a special place in the memory, even if he wasn't a great Cardinal. I just wanted to tip the cap to him.
And I think he started game 1 of the World Series in 2004. Right? I think he was in that
2006, 2004, like in Boston. Yeah, I don't know.
In Boston, because they had the DH, because they were able to use the DH, so they put So in the outfield for that. So of those great teams and those that great run they were on, I mean, he was a World Series starter with that. And I would say too, if we're going through the list of the 99s, he probably also contributed the greatest moment of all 3 of those guys. I would say too, with that home run that you were talking about, Bernie.
It was a big one. If they lose that game, they're down 0-2 to the Mets. And I even though that was a resilient team, I have a hard time thinking they win that series. When they came back to St. Louis 1-1, you just had an entirely different feeling about how that series could go.
Yep. And one other guy, by the way, and I just want to give some love, not that I would ever consider him for this list, but a quietly key player for the great Rams defense in 1999 was number 99, Ray Agnew, who, by the way, raised his kids here, and his son went to DeSmet and wound up playing in the NFL. Not that he was an all-time great in St. Louis, but for that particular team and that particular defensive line, he was a real leader for Carter and Wistrom and DeMarco.
He's one of the finest men that I ever encountered among St. Louis professional sports athlete. Just an outstanding human being. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned him.
Yeah. Good guy.
Well, guys, that wraps it up. We went through 100 numbers these past 10 weeks. Appreciate the contributions and the storytelling of you, Bernie, and Randy, and of course Claibs, the ones that he joined for as well. Being able, I can't think of 3 better voices in St. Louis to go over all of the numbers that we have over the past weeks. On social media, you will see the list. You'll see the poster up there of all 100 numbers. And as you have been over the past 10 weeks, continue to let me know where we're wrong about all of these, and where we could have done better over the last several weeks of this. As we've had a lot of fun doing this, and it's been a lot of fun talking about some of these great names over the past few weeks.
Absolutely, it's been fun.
I've enjoyed it because it does with guys like myself and Randy and Claibs. You know, we've been around a long time, and I haven't been around as long as those two. And that historical perspective I think it's good. I think there's some value in us sharing all of our perspective, but also it's a lot of fun to relive the memories. It's just a lot of fun to go back there in time and relive the great memories, because this has been such a great sports town, and I'm so grateful to be working here still.
And one of those things, as you look at the numbers that we put up there, it's fun to think in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, which of those numbers could possibly change over the years with some of the young names that we have in St. Louis today. So that's just something to look at on that. I would say one of the biggest ones being a number 50, like a Jordan Binnington. Could he overtake an Adam Wainwright on that over the years? And are there names out there today that we haven't even thought about? But we've appreciated all of you, the listeners, and the viewers, for everybody that has chimed in with your thoughts, as well as we wrap up our 10-week long look at 0 through 99, the best of the best throughout St. Louis sports history, here on STL Sports Central.